Nobody breathed. Not a single person inside that arena. Not the fans pressed against the barricades with their phones raised. Not the veterans watching from guerrilla position with decades of experience telling them they had seen everything this industry could possibly produce. Not the commentators whose entire professional existence revolves around finding the right words for extraordinary moments, because when Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu collided on SmackDown, the right words simply ceased to exist. What happened on that blue brand canvas was not a wrestling match in any conventional sense of that phrase. It was not a competitive athletic contest with defined rules and a clear narrative structure leading to a satisfying conclusion. What Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu delivered on SmackDown was something rawer, something more primal, something so viscerally intense that the wrestling universe is still sitting with the aftershock trying to process exactly what they witnessed. Two absolute forces of nature. Two men built from completely different blueprints but sharing the exact same foundational characteristic, the complete and utter refusal to yield to anything or anyone under any circumstances. Drew McIntyre, the Scottish psychopath, carrying the chip on his shoulder that has fueled one of the most compelling comeback narratives in modern WWE. Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf, the most terrifyingly athletic heavyweight this company has introduced in years, operating with a ferocity that makes every single person who shares a ring with him look immediately vulnerable. When these two forces collided on SmackDown, the shockwave traveled through every corner of the wrestling universe instantly. Trends erupted. Timelines flooded. Fan pages crashed under the weight of simultaneous reactions from people who could not contain what they had just experienced. Comment right now. One sentence. Tell me what that SmackDown moment did to you personally as a wrestling fan. Because Ring Rumble 1 needs to hear from every single one of you, and this video needs to reach every corner of the wrestling universe immediately. Share it, send it everywhere, and plant yourself right here until the final second, because the details and the implications of what Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu ignited on SmackDown go deeper than anything currently being discussed anywhere online. Before we surgically dissect every explosive, jaw-unhinging, spine-tingling moment of what transpired between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu on SmackDown, if you are discovering Ring Rumble 1 for the very first time right now, understand that you have landed on the channel that approaches professional wrestling with the seriousness, the depth, and the genuine passion this art form deserves. No recycled takes, no hollow hype, no content manufactured to chase algorithms at the expense of substance. Ring Rumble 1 gives you real analysis, real context, and real conversations about the moments that genuinely matter in this industry. Tap that subscribe button right now. Activate the notification bell with all notifications selected, because the story ignited by Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu on SmackDown is nowhere near its conclusion, and this channel will be tracking every development, every escalation, and every thunderous chapter as it unfolds. Subscribe. Bell activated. Let us tear this apart together. Every truly great rivalry in professional wrestling history derives its power from the specific tension created by two fundamentally incompatible forces being placed in direct opposition. The greatness is never accidental. It emerges from the particular friction generated when two identities that cannot coexist are forced to share the same space and settle the question of which one prevails. Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu generate that friction in a quantity and quality that SmackDown has not experienced in considerable time. Intensity in ways that younger, less seasoned competitors simply cannot replicate. When Drew McIntyre walks through that curtain with genuine purpose behind his eyes, the audience feels the difference immediately. This is not performance. This is a man who has paid for every single moment of his current standing with years of sacrifice that the highlight reel never fully captures. Jacob Fatu occupies an entirely different category of extraordinary. The Samoan werewolf arrived in WWE carrying the weight of a legendary bloodline while simultaneously representing something genuinely unprecedented in terms of the specific combination of physical gifts he brings to every single appearance. The agility of a cruiserweight somehow housed inside the frame of a devastating heavyweight. The aerial capabilities that should be physically impossible for a man his size. The ground-level power that would be remarkable even without the aerial dimension layered on top of it. But what separates Jacob Fatu from simply being an impressive physical specimen is the hunger. The rawness. The sense that everything Fatu does inside the ropes carries genuine emotional stakes, That he is not executing choreography but expressing something authentic and uncontrollable that professional wrestling provides the only legitimate outlet for. These two men on the same SmackDown canvas was never going to produce anything ordinary. The confrontation on SmackDown did not materialize from nowhere. The specific friction between Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu had been accumulating across several weeks of programming with the kind of deliberate, patient construction that the very best rivalries require before the explosion justifies the build-up. The opening salvos were verbal, a trading of declarations that established the philosophical opposition at the heart of the conflict. McIntyre, operating from the position of a proven commodity who has climbed every mountain this industry contains, expressing pointed skepticism about Fatu's readiness for the level of competition the Scottish Warrior represents. Not dismissiveness exactly, McIntyre is too intelligent and too experienced to genuinely underestimate Jacob Fatu, but a pointed, calculated challenge to Fatu's credentials that was designed to provoke a specific response. Fatu responded the way Fatu responds to everything, not with words, but with escalating physical statements that communicated his position more eloquently than any promo could manage. A calculated crossing of McIntyre's path. A deliberate invasion of the Scottish Warrior's space. The kind of wordless communication between fighters that translates instantly to anyone watching regardless of their familiarity with the performers involved. The physicality began before SmackDown's defining moment, brief, controlled eruptions that production and personnel managed to contain while simultaneously making it abundantly clear to every viewer that containment was only ever going to be temporary. The pressure building between these two men was visible, palpable, and inevitably pointed toward a single destination. SmackDown became that destination, cannot be manufactured or faked, only possessed. The opening exchanges were ferocious in a manner that immediately distinguished this match from the standard SmackDown fare. No feeling out process. No cautious, tentative opening minutes designed to establish the pace before the action escalates. McIntyre and Fatu went directly to the intensity that the build-up had promised, trading strikes with a genuineness and a velocity that had the live crowd reacting within the first 60 seconds with the kind of noise reserved for moments that feel genuinely significant. McIntyre's power game was extraordinary to witness up close. The Claymore being set up repeatedly, each attempt communicating the lethal efficiency of a finishing move that has ended careers and defined championships, only to be disrupted by Fatu's supernatural athleticism each time. The Samoan werewolf avoiding the Claymore not once but twice with movements that defied the physical logic of his size, leaving McIntyre recalibrating and the audience in genuine disbelief. Fatu's offensive sequences were unlike anything SmackDown has hosted recently. The top rope moonsault, a move of that complexity performed by a man of that size landing with that precision, produced a reaction from the live crowd that transcended the standard response to athletic achievement. This was the sound of people witnessing something they instinctively understood they would be describing to other wrestling fans for years. Back and forth, each man finding moments of genuine dominance only to have the other respond with something that reset the momentum entirely. The crowd invested completely, their reactions shifting with every exchange, their emotional involvement in the outcome of every near fall absolute and unambiguous. The closing sequence escalated to a level of physical intensity that left the entire arena standing. McIntyre finally connecting with the Claymore after a third attempt, the impact thunderous, the crowd erupting, only for the pinfall to produce a near fall that shocked everyone present. Fatu kicking out of the Claymore. The arena's reaction to that kickout was one of the loudest, most genuinely startled sounds SmackDown has generated in recent memory. What followed was contested, brutal, and completely unpredictable until the final moment, leaving the wrestling universe with a result that has generated more conversation, more passionate debate, and more genuine emotional investment than almost any SmackDown match in recent history. The wrestling universe's reaction to Drew McIntyre vs. Jacob Fatu on SmackDown has been overwhelming in both volume and intensity. Because this match did not just deliver in the moment, it fundamentally repositioned both competitors in the landscape of SmackDown and raised questions about the direction of the blue brand that did not exist before that bell rang. McIntyre's standing, regardless of the specific result, has been elevated by the quality of this performance. Because competing at that level against Jacob Fatu and pushing the Samoan werewolf to his absolute limit is a statement that resonates through the entire roster. Every person backstage watching that match understands what it means to go to that depth with Jacob Fatu and emerge with your credibility not just intact but enhanced. Fatu, meanwhile, has announced himself on SmackDown with the kind of definitive, undeniable, conversation-dominating performance that establishes a performer as a genuine fixture at the highest level of the brand. This was not a promising debut or a developmental showcase. This was a statement of arrival from a man who clearly intends to make SmackDown his permanent home and its most prestigious opportunities his permanent pursuit. The wrestling universe is not just talking about this match. They are demanding more. They are calling for the rematch with an urgency that SmackDown creative would be making a catastrophic mistake to ignore. Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu just delivered the most electrifying SmackDown moment of the year and the wrestling universe is nowhere near finished processing it. Comment right now, who won this war in your eyes? And do you want the rematch? Share this video with every wrestling fan you know because this conversation deserves the biggest audience possible. Ring Rumble 1. Subscribe. Stay plugged in. We will see you in the next one.